Okay, so after the wagon was fixed and we drove back to Mound, Minnesota is where the original Tonka toys, the metal ones, were made. Uh, the factory was about not even a half mile down the road from where I lived. Yeah, we used to actually go in the back as kids and go into dumpsters. They used to have like a metal dumpster, and they would have a plastic dumpster. And what we would do is we'd take the pieces, make our own little trucks and stuff. You know, they wouldn't have the insides like the metal seats and stuff, but they would have like the axles and the metal frame, and we'd make our own. And then we'd change different. You know, I make bigger wheels on the back and jack it up and make it look cool. Anyway, yeah, Mound was cool. Yeah, I grew up right next to Lake Minnetonka. We weren't the first row, the lake shore. It was called Edgewater Drive. There's a lake shore, then Edgewater Drive, and then we were the second row. And there was actually a public access where there was a public access dock where my parents had a rowboat, and then my dad had an aluminum canoe. He had a canoe that he was looked into want ads one day, and it said, "Turn your aluminum canoe into a sailboat." And so he bought this rigging that made his aluminum canoe into a sailboat, and I'm like, "That's cool." He taught me how to sail, and that's one of my favorite memories of my adopted father is that Lake Minnetonka is connected to other lakes by channels. And he would take me sailing, and I would fall asleep in one bay, and then I would wake up, and there's my dad's really sailing, you know. And I'd look around, and we were in another bay. I'm like, wow, cool, you know. So yeah, my parents, my adopted parents, we went from a drinking family to a drinking family. And so we stayed there 3 years until, and then during that time, my parents had adopted another two kids, a little black girl and Jerry, a black boy who's my age. And so after 3 years, my mom, my Barb Kunze, she couldn't take my dad's drinking, John Kunze's drinking. So she left. And see, one thing that happened was during this time, after being treated like an animal, my sister didn't trust anybody. And so uh, she said, "Don't trust these people. You know, don't call them mom and dad. We'll be leaving here soon, you know." And so what happened was in this 3 years that we were there, my sister bloomed like a flower and she became the person she was meant to be. And there was this boy in our neighborhood, his name was Kenny Lindquist, and he was a bully. And so he was picking on a younger kid. And so my sister said, "Leave him alone." And so they fought, and my sister beat him up and made him cry. And so he said, "Wait right here. I'm gonna go lift weights and I'm gonna come back." And so in an hour he came back, and my sister beat him up again and made him cry. Anyway, that was my sister. That's who she became to be. Be this person that she was meant to be. And so what happened was when my mom decided to leave my dad, my sister was at my adopted mom's sister's in Milwaukee, spending the summer there, and she would call back with these great reports about, "Oh, we went to this bread factory, we went to this museum, all during the summer." So she's coming off of this great vacation, right? And so I come home, and I go, "Why is my stuff on the wagon?" They had a blue skylark wagon, and my mom said, "We're going on a trip." And I'm like, "Okay." So we get in the car, and we go to the airport and pick up my sister. And she comes out of the airport and she says the same thing. "Why is my stuff on the luggage rack?" And she goes, "We're going on a trip." And so what happened was she took us to Lutheran Social Service, which at that time was at 24th and Park in Minneapolis. And as soon as we pulled in that parking lot, my sister realized what was going on was that, my mom was taking us back to the adoptions agency. And she just started screaming and crying, and she just was hysterical because the dream's over. You know what I mean? She went from being treated like an animal to this, being treated like the person she was meant to be, and now she's being dropped back off at the Lutheran Social Service, and she started screaming and crying, and so she dropped us off, and she went to California to her mom's house, and so I went to Northfield, Minnesota, and I spent a summer across the pig farm, and then my sister went back to Canada, and at the end of the summer, check this out. At the end of the summer, I come out of the house and I go, "Why is my stuff in the back of the pickup?" And the people said we're going on a trip. And I'm like, I know where we're going. See, and human nature is pretty simple. Well, not simple, I mean the same. Meaning that my mom said the same thing. Instead of lying or telling us the truth, she lied. Okay? It's easier to lie to somebody. So this happened to, and this is a way, like a city 100 miles away. And these people are totally different. They're farmers. And they're the same thing, see? Instead of telling me the truth, they weren't going to lie to me and say, "Oh, no, we're going on a trip." Same exact explanation, too. It's like I was so blown away because I knew where we were going. We're going to Lutheran Social Service. You know what I'm saying? And so check this out, though. It was fortunate for me because what happened was they sent me to a foster home that was 2 miles away from the Kunzis. So what I did, check this out. What I did was I ran away like 40 times. Maybe not quite 40 times. I can't remember. Maybe that's an exaggeration. But every other 3 days, I would run away. And I'd go to the Kunzis, And the reason I did that was that 3 years was the only stability I had ever known in my life up to that point. Okay? And these people they didn't treat me like an animal. You know what I mean? They treated me like a human being, Anyway, so my dad would say, "Tom, you can't stay here anymore. The judge says you can't stay here anymore." And so he would take me back to the foster home, and then I'd just run away again back there. And so, oh yeah, I'm sorry. And see, when I came back, I was surprised because the yard looked different, and so I was expecting just to see my mom there, but my dad was there too. So they had. No, actually, I mean the other way around. My mom had left, so I was only expecting to see my dad there, but they were both there. And they were surprised to see me. And then, like I said, I kept running away and coming back. And like one of the last times that I did this, he goes, "You really want to come back here, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." And because it was the only stability I'd ever known. And he said, "Okay, well, this is what I'm going to do." He says, "It's not up to me, Tom. We screwed up, And he said, "I'm going to talk to the judge, and I'm going to tell him what's going on. And, yeah, but first of all, you got to stop running away." Okay? And I said, "Okay," And so it took it was under 2 weeks, like 10 days, I think. I can't remember. It wasn't very long. But he said, "Okay, look, I talked to the judge. And the judge said that all three of us have got to come before him." And so we went in front of the judge, and the judge was looking at the folders. He's looking at my sister's folder, and he's looking at my folder, and he's looking at my sister's folder, and he kept looking at, and he just was like, and he just like threw his hands up. And he's like, "All right, look, this is what we're going to do. You already lost one, okay?" And he's pointed at all three of us. He goes to my dad, "You got to stop drinking." And then he pointed to me, because I was in the middle. "You got to stop running away." And he pointed at my mom. And my mom, he said, "You got to stick around, and you got to quit leaving to your mom's house." Now, he said, "If you can all agree to this, you are going to come before me quarterly for the next 3 years and tell me this. And during this time, if you guys, any of you stop wanting to do this, you got to let me know." He said, "But for the next 3 years, quarterly, you're going to come before me, and you're going to agree to this." And then we all agreed to it. And then after that 3 years, the Kunzes were able to adopt me. And my dad was like, "Tom, this is a really big honor for me to adopt you. And it would be a great honor if you took my middle name." And I said, this is what I told him. I said, "Look, You know what? It's a great honor to have not only your last name but your middle name. Because you chose. See, and then during this 3 years, my dad had to quit drinking, so he had to sober up. And it made him a better person. And so he chose alcohol. I mean, I'm sorry, my real parents chose alcohol over me, and my adopted parents, my dad chose me over alcohol. And so uh, and that's what I told him. It'd be a great honor to have your name, have your middle name. So my name now is Thomas Robert Kunze. And so he had a heart attack in 2005. And I didn't know this was going to be like this, after he died. But he was always on my side. He was always in my corner. And I mean, even just to talk, just to have his good counsel and wise advice, uh, have him just having him there, And once he died, and I'm sure he knows this, but I just want to tell him, look, you didn't have to die me, but you did, and you made such a positive impact on my life that man, I love you, and I'm sure he knows this, but I carry this in my heart, and so I guess the only advice I'd give you is that if you love someone, tell them that, because they may not be around here tomorrow. So don't save this stuff. Just because of pride or whatever it is that's stopping you. Tell people that you love them, man. Anyway, thank you.